Welcome to Kandid 2.0. I am Kieran Lightborn. I'm joined by,
I'm John Joseph.
and today we have an epic episode for you. As we have with us, we have Mr. Tim Smith.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, welcome. Thank you for coming. And we will be having discussions on real estate and his story.
Yeah, and it's an interesting story also. But before we get into all that, let's first find out who is Tim Smith.
Thank you, guys. So my name is Tim Smith. I'm a partner at Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, MCR Bahamas. Like I said, I've been in the business now 6 years. I predominantly focus on sales, rentals, and that's my background.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't want this to go over the heads of our viewers. The young man said that he's been in the business for 6 years, but he also said that he's a partner at
Wow.
MCR. But 6
That's
years,
crazy.
partner. That normally doesn't happen. So there has to be something special going on here, you know?
And this is what we want to know. So we're gonna first need to find out why real estate. What got you into real estate?
Yeah, so I grew up around the industry. My dad had a real estate development company, but that wasn't the path that I had planned. I went to school. I'm an accountant by trade. I got a bachelor's in accounting at Georgia State University, and I worked at a big four accounting firm throughout college. Came back home, and I did 2 years at that firm, and I decided that I needed to kind of make a switch. That industry wasn't right for me, and I kind of stumbled into real estate. I met Mario Carey, who founded the company, and now is a business partner. But I met him, and the opportunity presented itself where he said you could come on and give it a try, and here we are 6 years later, and we're gonna just keep going.
Wow. That's amazing.
That is amazing, especially stumbling upon it, but at the same time, it appears because I've seen the work that you've done, especially over social media, and what gets me is I've never seen somebody so happy doing what they do. Where does the passion lie?
Yeah, for sure. And that was one of the big reasons why I decided I needed to make a switch, because I wasn't enjoying what I was doing every day. I wasn't waking up energized. I wasn't waking up motivated to really go to work and do everything I was doing day to day. So I knew there was a point that I needed to make a switch. And real estate turned out to be, until I got into it, I didn't realize what a passion I had for that work, as well as, my ability to, sell, market properties. And like I said to you earlier, I think, I always encourage people when they're looking for a career choice, because, in the Bahamas, we get in this habit of saying you need to be a lawyer, a doctor, accountant. Those are the primary job titles where people are like, these are the elite jobs, and anything outside of that doesn't typically fall in the norm. But I think there's a lot of different industries that, people can have great success in here in the Bahamas, and it doesn't have to be those cookie cutter jobs. And I think you should chase passion, not the money.
Right.
I think
The money follows, right?
the money follows. Yeah. When you're really doing something that you're passionate about, and you're not just, the motivation isn't the money, because I think for you to wake up every day and work as hard as you need to work to have success in something, you really have to have a motivating factor that's not just money.
Right.
You have to really love what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, your field is in the Bahamas. We all can see that it's dominated by, I don't want to use the word old, but I lack of a better word, older
Tenured,
men and women.
seasoned,
Yeah.
seasoned. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
seasoned.
well, older or seasoned
Yeah,
gentlemen and ladies. Coming up as a young partner of a firm, do you find any challenges or anything? Or does your age present some challenges for you?
Yeah, so you're right. I think historically, real estate has been an industry that has been dominated by older people. Now you're starting to see the younger faces come into the industry and really starting to make waves. I think for me, one, I don't look very old. That's the first.
That's it.
But you know, my age, I am 29, so a lot of my clients, a lot of their kids are either my age or older. So, you know, there has to be a respect factor for me coming in and them trusting me with their real estate portfolios or giving them real estate advice. And I think that, you know, I'm able to overcome that challenge because one, you know, I am a freak for the data. Like I study real estate. I look at the trends, you know, I really study it, like the numbers, you know, what are market values at this point in time. And I think when I come across people and you know, a lot of our business is referral based, right? So they'll say, you need to speak to Tim. Like that's where I'm at now, where they're like, you need to meet this guy if you're trying to buy real estate, sell real estate. So I think when I meet them in person, first they're taken aback sometimes. I can see it in their face. They're like, oh, I didn't know, you know, I thought you were an older gentleman, right? But once I start talking to them and they start asking me questions and they be like, okay, this guy's legit. He knows his stuff. Like I'm not faking. And I think that all comes from me just being so knowledgeable about the data and really being in it every day and having my ears to the streets that, you know, this guy has all of the knowledge and the understanding.
I think I just made the connection. Your accounting background and the numbers. That's probably what it. Yeah, that's probably what it is because you really rely on, you know, like they say, the data doesn't lie, right?
Yeah.
So you really focus on that, and that's what's probably made you really successful.
Well, to your point, I think there's a lot of different things that people buy real estate for, right? One is leisure, and then two is for investments. So to your point, my accounting background really does come into play in that from an investment standpoint, I'm able to properly break it down and tell people what this real estate asset is generating, what I think is going to happen in terms of price appreciation, stuff like that. And then I'm able to break it down and say why this is a good investment for somebody in terms of return on investment, ROIs, what the expenses are going to be, what the revenue is going to generate. So I'm able to kind of package that for a lot of people, which a lot of people don't have that knowledge.
Wow.
No, because that's what I'm saying. Just in that it's almost as if you have disrupted totally what real estate would we know real estate to be, especially to provide that information. Because if I'm interested, me who amateur at purchasing properties, I'm coming in, I want to, you know, I'm having that fight between should I buy a house or should I buy an apartment? You know, there's always a dispute, which is more valuable. Coming in and you're being able to tell me all of this information gives me more insight. That is awesome. So I want to now ask, how have you used technology in what you do?
Yeah, for sure. And I love the word that you use is disrupted the industry. I pride myself on being a disruptor, right?
Trust you are.
And I think even though like real estate has always been a traditional way that people do things. So I always pride myself on doing things differently, bringing a lot of fresh energy into the industry. And you see that through my marketing efforts, right? You know, you're seeing the YouTubes, you're seeing the social medias, the TikToks, you're seeing the Instagram posts. So I'm really just putting myself in front of as many people as humanly possible. And it's through these channels that I'm able to do that. And it's just being really creative, putting a lot of content. And a lot of people see the content, but they don't see the day-to-day. So it's fitting all of that in. And you guys as creators as well know the amount of time that goes into that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, he's definitely creative.
He
gives me that insight because I'm still learning. But even when you stay using all of those different mediums to get the message out, what is it? How I should put it? What is it that I guess you make sure that your target audience gets from, or what they experience from your marketing strategy?
Yeah, I think my marketing strategy isn't targeting a certain demographic or a certain age group, because I'll give you an example, right? When TikTok just started to really blow up, I said, let me give it a shot, right? And I'll tell you, the story is crazy. And this is when I really believed in TikTok.
Okay.
I posted something in a client's house. I was filming a YouTube video, but I said, let me do a TikTok tour, right? Did that, posted it. And it was about 3 days after posting it, the owners, I didn't even tell them that I posted it. The owners messaged me and was like, Tim, we saw your TikTok. We love it. I was like, how did you see it? Right?
Wow. Totally right.
And they live in Canada.
Wow.
This is how crazy it is.
Oh, wow.
They're not even in the Bahamas.
Wow.
Their kid's friend saw it on TikTok, sent it to the kid. The kid then sent it to the parents,
Yeah.
and they sent it to me.
Wow.
That's just how powerful social media is.
Yeah. Wow.
So
That's
that's a
amazing.
huge tool. It's a big tool that you use to be able to get your message out.
TikTok is ridiculous. TikTok is.
It's probably the medium that you could go. I always do things that what's going to go viral, or what's going to get the most exposure, and that's what I think a lot of people appreciate, because real estate is kind of a numbers game, right? You have your clients, but once you go through your client database, if they don't want the property, how do you sell the property, right? You have to then put it in front of as many people as humanly possible, hundreds of thousands of people, and then it's almost like you'll get a bite or generate interest. So I think I've been able to leverage all these social media platforms, as well as, like we were talking about earlier with the global brand, Better Homes and Gardens. We have tools there that allow us to really push properties internationally that just give the properties the maximum exposure as possible.
And how has that worked now that you've spoken about it? Teach me. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not that savvy when it comes to understanding these different names. So it's Better Homes and Garden, MCR. Right?
Yeah.
Teach me on one, what is it? And what's the benefit of being a part of it?
Yeah, so I think, there's companies here that are just independent brokerages that are just locally based. So that at one point was Mario Carey Realty, and he made the decision to bring on a franchise, an international franchise, Better Homes and Gardens, real estate, for that exact reason, to allow us to get as much international exposure as possible, benefit from their tools, benefit from their database that's, millions of people, and we pass on that benefit to our clients by, when we list their properties, that we're making sure that it's getting in front of millions of people, which I think, was a decision he made because he knew just having the independent brokerage wasn't getting the exposure that we needed to really take things to the next level for really high-end properties.
Right. So real estate agents are brokers.
So you have brokers and sales agents.
Okay. All right. Just had to make sure.
Yeah,
you have to understand these things. So now I want to start to bring it more to our local scene. What is it that a home buyer, someone who's thinking right now, that, I'm 20, I'm 24, fresh out of college, or just 24, I'm thinking about real estate, but I'm afraid, right? Because we've known, or we've always heard stories of the most difficult thing to achieve is home ownership, right? How would you now walk me through what it would take? I'm a 24-year-old trying to make this decision.
Yeah.
How would you walk me through that process?
Yeah, I think locally, and everyone's situations are different, right? So it's not easy for, I always recommend people do not rent if they don't have to, but everyone's situation is different. Some people have to rent, right?
Yeah.
If you're not living at home with your parents, stuff like that. So I think it comes down to education. First things first, is the financing. That's the big hurdle to overcome as somebody in your early 20s. What can you qualify for to buy, right? And that comes through the bank, right? So I think the bank looks at a lot of things, where you work, your income. There's a lot of things that they factor in when they say you could afford this amount for a house. But a lot of people don't realize that if you can qualify for a mortgage, putting a down payment, and that's, again, that can be hefty. It could be 5, 10, up to 20%, which isn't easy for everyone. So I get it. You may need to rent, but your monthly payments are usually almost always going to be lower than your rental amount, right?
Right.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
For the same space.
Really? I did not.
Yeah.
I really did not know. I thought renting was more of a, cheaper way to
Renting is
live
easier.
a certain way.
Yeah.
I think renting is easier.
Oh.
Getting a mortgage is harder, but it's also cheaper in the long run for you.
Mm-hmm.
Over 30 years.
Which a lot of people don't realize, right?
No, I didn't realize.
You could be putting that rent towards a mortgage payment that's probably equal or less, but it's just coming up with that down payment, which is, is tough sometimes. Yeah. And then obviously, do you qualify for an amount? And, that's probably the hurdles that people have, and that's why they decide to rent. Because it's just like, I need to come up with $2,000 a month or $1,500, $1,000 a month, and I get that from my salary. I can put it towards that. I don't have to go through this whole rigorous, application process with the bank to get access to funds.
And it makes sense, because if you think about it, a great majority of people that own homes own it for an investment, right? And they are renting them out, so they have to at least cover the mortgage, right? So your rent is always going to be higher than their mortgage.
Yeah.
Equal or higher. I mean, at the very minimum, it's going to be equal.
So what a lot of people do sometimes, say if, you don't think you're going to be able to make that mortgage payment every month, right? You think it's a little out of reach. They'll invest in a property that might have an addition on it, right?
Right.
Like a 1-bedroom, and you live in one half. So at least this portion is generating you some income to help you out with your monthly payments.
Right. So I want to now take it back a bit.
Mm-hmm.
What did it take for you when you stumbled, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did it take from stumbling to becoming partner?
Yeah,
How was that process, that journey?
I think real estate can be a tough business because a lot of the times you just get thrown into the deep end and you're just on your own, right? I was lucky enough that I didn't have that experience. So, working with Mario, he was a mentor to me. He always, I don't know what it was, but, me and him always worked very closely. I don't know if he identified something in me, he saw something, but I give him the credit that he groomed me. He told me what it will take for me to really be successful in this industry. And I'm a huge learner. Like, I absorb just being around people. Like, I don't have to be asking questions. I just notice what people are doing, what they say. And me and him were spending so much time together, even outside of work. I was just absorbing all of that knowledge from being around him. And I think that really took my career and fast-tracked it, as well as him. A lot of people, you ever see, you guys play sports?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not play. I watch.
Okay. So, like sometimes when you're, I played a lot of sports, and sometimes, the dad's the coach, and, he'll be a little harder on the son playing, right?
Yes.
Than the other teammates, because he knows he could push him to that level, right?
Right.
I was getting a kind of a similar push from him, even though, that's not my dad, but it was kind of like a relationship where he was pushing me to that point where he knew he could excel me further. And I'm very open to that because I'm sports driven, right?
Right.
So like a lot of people might not be open or take it well when somebody's, being that hard on them in terms of trying to push them and take them and get the maximum they could get out of them. But I'm very open to that. So I credit him, for really fast tracking my career.
You saw something special in you, and you're
That's-
trying to get it out. Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And mentorship, it's big with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the big values of mentorship. When it is for someone to be able to pull out of you, which you probably didn't at that time see yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But now, as you continue to put yourself out there, I would like to ask you, when it comes to certain trends, because guys, we have seen a boom, as you stated, not with only a diverse background of persons getting into real estate. They're now opening, we're seeing more collaborations with international institutions along with our locals. But when it comes to what trend is it now that you're seeing when it comes to purchasing property here in the Bahamas? Because I noted that it is stated that in the last maybe year or two, there were more high-end purchases
Yeah.
than any other. Could you speak on that?
Yeah, so I think obviously, you see everything in the news, like the government putting out the numbers of how much money they've made off of VAT transactions. That's way up. And a lot of people are just seeing the real estate market is booming, it's booming, it's booming, it's booming. It's true, but it's different segments, right? And to your point, it is the luxury high-end market that really took that really made the market boom. And I think that one, we spoke about COVID earlier. When COVID first hit and we locked down, I mean, the real estate market tanked, right?
Right.
But that was just from a factor of we were locked down. We couldn't even, the registrar's office was closed. We weren't able to show property. Everyone was kind of at a standstill. But once we started to really open back up, I mean, the complete opposite of what you would think would happen in a pandemic with all that was going on. It was the complete opposite. It's like, they've said that this is probably the hottest real estate market in 40 years, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that
Wow, I
good.
didn't know it was that hot.
I mean, people who have been in real estate, Mario's been in real estate, 40 plus years, I think. And people are saying they've never seen it like this before in their lives.
Yeah.
So I think what happened was, and this is just through talking to clients, monitoring what's going around in the world, because you see in Miami is the same thing. New York had a boom. Los Angeles had a boom. So it's not just the Bahamas. So worldwide, you saw a real estate boom. But I think in particular, what happened in the Bahamas is that just through the word of mouth, a lot of peoples and jurisdictions were so locked down and people were going crazy. For example, Canada, you're locked down, the weather's bad, stuff like that. And we have a large population of Canadians who own homes here. So, through word of mouth, when everything happened in Canada, a lot of them probably came down to their home down here. They're on the beach, no mask, great weather. And their friends are like, I'm stuck in my apartment or I'm stuck in my house. The weather is terrible. I need to do what you're doing, right? So I think one, word of mouth, people were like, the Bahamas is the place to be during COVID. Let me get a place down there and do that. And then two, the ability for people worldwide to start working remotely. I think that's what drove it as well, because the Bahamas is such a destination that's in demand. Like, people want to be here, but work obligations, you're not able to travel all the time. Now it becomes possible for them to really spend a lot of time down here while being able to work remotely. So I think that was the attraction for a lot of people. They said, I could buy a home down here, work remotely, and still be successful and run a business elsewhere in the world.
Wow. So what do you see? So that's where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
So the boom happened.
Yeah.
It's happening. 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
How does it look? Does it look like it's going to be a pullback, or does it look like it's going to continue forward?
Yeah, so I think everyone's aware of what's going on around the world. Inflation is crazy.
Yes.
Interest rates are going up. The euro is on par with the US dollar right now. I mean, we don't know what's happening. If not, we're currently in a recession. A lot of people are thinking there's a recession coming.
We won't know until it's over.
Exactly. Yeah. But what's good about the Bahamas is, when we look back at times like 2008 with the housing crisis in the US, right? Mm-hmm. That happens because there's so much supply of real estate and they couldn't sell it because, it was more costly for people to afford houses at that time. So it's driving prices down, and that's why you saw that big price drop. But in the Bahamas, we only have a limited supply of real estate, and we're always in high demand, right? Because again, it's people's motivation to buy real estate here. It's it's more than just investment. It's a leisure thing,
right?
So people will spend, and there's only so much beachfront property, right?
Right. Yeah, we running out fast.
So, and the reality is, people want to be on the beach.
Yeah.
So you never see big dips in the prices in the Bahamas. Is usually pretty stable no matter what's going on in the economy, just because, it's always going to be in demand and there's only a certain amount of supply. So it all comes down to that. So you won't see prices dropping here. So even if something, a big recession comes, I don't see the Bahamas prices ever really falling like that. They may stay stable, and the prices always stay pretty firm here. So it's a really safe investment when you put it that way. You're investing in a piece of real estate that the value is going to either maintain or increase. There's a very low possibility that it's going to take a deep dive.
Wow, awesome! That is awesome. I'm still amazed about how quickly you rose to partner, and I want what is this might be too in depth. You can answer if you want. But what does it take to become a partner of a real estate firm here in the Bahamas? Is there certain metrics that you have to hit, or
No, so I think I can't speak for every company, because every company has their own dynamic. Some are family owned. Is that even a possibility at some companies, right? So in the company, with Mario, I think it was a discretion thing, right? It was kind of like he just made a decision because he was the sole owner for most of, the lifespan of the company. And it was entirely on him to make the decision of inviting me to buy into the company and be a part of the ownership group. And I think, again, it goes back to, him identifying something in me that he wanted to kind of lock me in long term. And, I'm a guy, if I see an opportunity that, you can't pass up, I jump at it, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of the things. And I knew I'd want to be in real estate in some shape or form for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was presented to me, I just knew I had to really just take that leap. Obviously it's not easy to really take that on. There's financial obligations and stuff like that. But, I really took advantage of the opportunity.
Well, with that decision, obviously he's may not have said it may not be written, but you're basically the future of MCR, Better Homes and Garden. And where do you see the company going in the next, or where do you plan to take the company moving forward? Because you are going to be the future, or you are the future really, because the other two partners are, they're probably going to hand it over to you in a bit.
So I think, like you said, I think it's succession planning.
Right.
Mario is a very smart person like that. He's very forward thinking. So I think, Mario's obviously a little older in age. He doesn't want to be, working 70-hour weeks for the rest of his life, right? So I think it's a succession planning, and he's just strategizing, the lifespan of the company. I think for me and Tim Rodland, me and him work very closely in terms of the operations of the company. I think what we're doing now is modernizing the company in terms of what we're putting out. All of the processes that are in place, we're kind of making sure that these are, cutting edge, modernizing the company, and then also providing tools and resources to our agents that are very cutting edge and modern. And I think that's what we're just making sure to keep up and just being on top of things and keeping up with the times. Real estate is always a changing industry. So we always have to make sure that we're on top of our game and ahead of, what's to come.
So I know you were recently recognized, right?
For what?
It was
From the brand?
Yes.
Yeah.
So could you speak on that? What was it exactly?
Yeah.
Because I want to get into another question. But what was it exactly that you were recognized for, and how has it helped you as Tim Smith, the person?
Yeah. So the brand, if we're talking about the same award that was in the papers,
yes, the same.
The brand Better Homes and Gardens as a international brand.
Oh, so from the international.
It was from internationally recognized, the top 3% of performers in the company worldwide, and 4 of us fell within that category.
Wow.
From the company.
and you're talking about 4% out of how much?
3%.
3%.
3%, sorry.
Get it right, buddy.
Sorry.
3%.
Hey, my apologies. I noticed there's a gentleman of statistics. Right? So 3%, but we're talking about a total workforce of about how much?
We're talking tens of thousands of agents.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know what's the exact number, but we're talking worldwide.
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that again.
Congratulations.
But now what I wanted to ask is, all right, you've had a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right now, being that, we are looking at different type of backgrounds, career, professional backgrounds. Persons are not just going into the regular doctor, accountant, and I'm sure they're seeing you. But what they're seeing is they're seeing this young face,
Mm-hmm.
right, who's walking through homes with 40 feet ceilings, right, with the pool, and it seems as if he's wearing these nice suits and these nice outfits. So it seems as if, he's living such a great life that he's working so poshly, right, and he's getting paid for this.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like for you to speak to the audience, because there are persons who probably are interested. They're looking at what is my next career line going to be.
Yeah.
But then they don't know the background. They only see what you put out front.
Or they may not feel like they can get to that level. Like,
Right.
like say the young person just trying to get into the business.
Mhm.
They see you are at a level right now that they may feel like they can't get to.
Mhm.
So you,
Right. So what is your, give us a run through your day.
Yeah. So to your point, obviously real estate is a very sexy industry, right?
Yes. I glad you used the word
You
sexy.
see
Yes.
the big houses, you see the commissions, everyone looks at the TV shows and it just is a sexy industry, right? But to your point, a lot of people don't see the back end of what goes into being a real estate agent. And I'm talking about being in the trenches. Like, for you to be successful here in a very competitive industry, I think right now there's 700 real estate agents in the Bahamas.
whoa, I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Okay.
Wow. I did not.
Yeah.
That's a number.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
Wow.
there's 700 real estate agents, and over here is so competitive. I mean, we're only a small country. There's only so much inventory. There's only so many clients that are coming in. So it's always very competitive as to who's getting the business, right? So, like, for me, a lot of people don't know. I probably push 65, 70, 75-hour weeks, right?
Wow.
Working, right? And that's the thing. You have to really love what you're doing. So my day starts at 6. I start answering emails. I go to the gym, and then I head into the office probably like around 8:30, 9. I'm not always in the office, but I go in the office probably about 3 to 4 times a week. I do showings throughout the day. And the tough part is, you're taking calls throughout the day, you're doing showings, and then it's all the work that you have to do. You have to answer all the emails you haven't answered throughout the day. You have to follow up with calls, people who haven't been able to reach you throughout the day. So it's really, for me, I'm on 24/7, I'll say that. Even, people will see me out, right?
Yeah.
Having a good time. But if somebody approaches me out about real estate, I'm talking about real estate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm always 24/7. And, everyone is different. I think I'm lucky to be in a situation where, again, I'm 29. I don't have a family. I don't have kids. I don't have people relying on me financially. So, everyone doesn't have that accessibility to work those kind of hours and to be that available to people. Like, if somebody calls me 11 o'clock at night, a client, I pick up, right?
Wow.
Not everyone is willing to do that. They have to kind of cut off the work. They got to spend time with their family, the priorities and stuff like that. So, but I'm in a position now where I could just go, right? So I'm going to keep doing that as long as I can. And I think a lot of people who look at real estate as a career choice just have to know, again, like you didn't know 700 agents, right?
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot to go around, right? So
That's a lot.
very competitive, and it takes a lot of hard work to, close these big deals, right? You see it online, but you don't know some of those took 8 months.
Yeah.
A lot of stress, a lot of pressure. a lot of negotiations. A lot of times the deal was going to fall apart. You had to get it back together. There's a lot of stuff that goes into a deal to get it to that finish line where you're posting it and saying it's sold. It's not a 2-week thing, right? Yeah.
Wow. And then, just selling a home in the Bahamas alone takes 3 months just going through the regulatory stuff and everything. So
yeah,
I know that could be an issue for you guys sometimes.
Yeah, I always tell people time is the biggest killer of deals. And like you said, some deals could take 3 months. I've had some go over a year, right? Wow. And it's keeping people hot on wanting to still buy this piece of property, right? So it can be tough when, months are going by and, people are wondering what's going on. And I think also it's a learning curve. People who are used to closing 2 weeks, 3 weeks in Canada or the United States, and you're coming to the Bahamas and it's taking a little bit more time than you're accustomed to, you really have to be good to keep them still interested in buying it.
All right, so I'm going to ask the question that everyone wants to know, especially people that are trying to get into the industry. What was your biggest sale of all time? Mm-hmm. And currently right now, what's your biggest listing that you have?
So my biggest listing I ever had was 23 million. Wow. And then my biggest sale was around 8 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is, calculation, wow. Wow, that's pretty good. So the market is ripe. And but I want to ask before we move on, I really want to ask another question. And it's for the younger, because you are very young in the industry, and for any other young person coming up, what? Because I'm sure, people see you and they want to imitate your success. Mm-hmm. What do you think they need in terms of, habits, or what do you think they need to be able to? Because you're whether you thought about it or not, you're now a role model. Because you are at the highest level of what your profession brings. You are a partner, basically. You have ownership in a real estate firm. So you are now the standard. And at 29, that's a different kind of standard. That's a different kind of standard. So what for a young person just entering the market, or a young person looking at you and they want to be like you, what qualities would you say they would have to start to work on now so they can get to your level?
Yeah, I think, again, not to repeat, but again, you have to find what motivates you, right? What's getting you up early every day? Are you feeling like, oh, I don't want to go to work? Like, I don't mind skipping a holiday to work. I work every weekend. So you have to have a motivating factor to do that. So again, it comes down to the passion. And then I think in anything you do, you have to have a certain level of discipline, right? Putting your morning routines in place, showing up every day, being on time, especially in a service-based industry like real estate, you always have to be sharp and on your game and make sure you have the right habits, following up on time, being available, being on time, which I know a lot of people have a difficulty with. You think it's so easy, right? But just the simple basic things, especially when you're dealing with people, who are from all parts of the world, that's the standard you have to kind of hold yourself to in order to really have success in the industry, in my opinion.
Awesome. That speaks a lot. Consistency, being present, respecting time, passion. I get all of that. But I'd like to now ask, what was the biggest lesson? What was the biggest lesson that you've learned over the years?
Yeah, I think, real estate is just like any other business, right? So the lessons that I've learned can be applied throughout business as a whole, right? So I think the two main takeaways I would say off of the top of my head that I've learned so far in my journey is one, creating genuine relationships with people, right? that's how you succeed. It's not all just what can I get out of people, because people feel that, when you put yourself in somebody else's shoes, you don't have that trust level. You don't have, people who want to work with you if it's just kind of like, oh, you're just selling me real estate, right? So a lot of my clients, I have genuine relationships with. Like, they'll invite me to life events that are happening for them, right? Like, they'll invite me to, housewarmings. They'll invite me to their birthday parties. I show up for that. Their kids are in town. They want me to meet their kids. So it's more than just being their real estate agent. It's kind of like, now we've formed a relationship where I'm a friend. And I think a lot of people prefer, I use this analogy a lot, people, when it comes to real estate, it's like they prefer shopping with a friend, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It's not just doing a tour with a real estate professional that I don't have any connection with, right? Makes the process more fun. And again, it's that level of trust they have in me that I have their best interest at heart. A lot of people, if they don't buy anything, it's not a big deal. But, I just genuinely want to help them out, and they feel that. And then the second one, I would say, just make sure to do everything to your best of your ability to be ethical at all times, right? When there's, some of these, in real estate, a lot of time there's a lot of money on the line, right? And it can tempt people to do things that, just to try and get it, right? But at the end of the day, just to do that transaction and not to be ethical about it is going to come back around, right? Because especially in a place like the Bahamas, at the end of the day, money aside, you only have your name that you could rely on, right?
Yes.
And I think in the Bahamas, especially because we're such a small community, it's not very difficult for, if you do something that, is a little gray, that word isn't going to get around, and people are going to say, oh, Tim, they'll use your name and have it in a negative light. So I think at the end of the day, again, just to recap, building genuine relationships will take you to levels that, you wouldn't even expect you could reach in business, as well as, making sure that you have a good name at the end of the day and doing everything ethical and above board.
That's strong. That's powerful. Being genuine, having genuine relationships, and then also being ethical. So, and then I know even at some point you spoke about being disciplined. You spoke about passion. Is real estate the only thing that you do?
So right now, real estate takes up probably about 95% of my life professionally. I do have another company. It's called Easy Haul Truck Rentals that I've started, and I consider myself an entrepreneur. So I always, even though real estate takes up a lot of my time and that's mainly my focus, I'm always open to business ideas and, how I could diversify my streams of income. So Easy Haul was a startup that I did with 3 of my high school friends, and it's been successful thus far. And I think it was actually it had so much PR as, I think at the time we started that I was maybe 23 at the time when we started that company, and now we're probably 7 years from when we started that. So, it was a company that thrived and is still doing well. I think it motivated a lot of people that, young people can start businesses in the Bahamas and have success.
Yeah.
Wow, especially because I didn't even think, I didn't even think about that type of business as one. I applaud you not only for taking that risk, but you made another point where it was you and other friends.
Yeah.
So just before we get ready to wrap up, but I would like to ask, how important then is your circle?
Yeah.
How important is your circle when it comes to being able to, before even achieving it, just being able to identify it and being able to take the journey to get it?
For sure. So I think, to your question, I take my circle very seriously, right? Like, I have a lot of people know me, but I have a pretty close circle of people that I know I can trust. But what's super important that I've learned as well is to make sure to have people around you that motivate you, right? Even like us today, you know, I was saying you guys motivated me with this whole concept with the podcast and stuff like that. So I always make sure to have people around me that are also doing things in their lives that motivate me, even though that, you know, they might not know that they're motivating me. You know, there's different ways that people can motivate you. It doesn't have to be like they're making a ton of money, or, you know, they could just be doing something in their trade that's very motivating, right? Or, you know, they having a level of success that motivates you. There's behaviors that they do that motivate you. So I make sure to have people around me that really motivate me and continue to want me to elevate myself every day.
Wow. Elevation.
That's what's up.
Daily elevation. Well, I would like to say, Tim, thank you so much for joining us here on Kandid. Well, my takeaways were passion.
Mm-hmm.
Don't chase the money. Chase the passion.
For sure.
That right there is my takeaway. Understanding the importance of genuine relationships, being genuine yourself, ethics, such a big thing. But even so, like as you spoke about diversifying your incomes, is that also being mindful of those who you keep around you. And I want you to know that your contribution not only to the millennials, but to the country in itself is that, hey, listen, I'm showing you that this can be done. Like like you could be a disruptor regardless of your age. And with the consistency, we've seen now where disruption can take you once you do it the right way. So I just would like to tell you that I'm wow, it's like it's an awesome opportunity to get to meet you, to speak with you. Like your contributions, I'm excited to see what else you get into. I'm sure that my good friend John, we're gonna find a reason to call Easy Hall. Because guess what?
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Because if you're looking for that forever realtor, that's what you are.
For sure.
If you're looking for that forever realtor, then we have you, Tim. And then as soon as you help me buy that house, I'm still have to call you back so you can help me move my stuff to me.
For sure.
It works. But
before we wrap up, I mean, a point that you just made that just really hit home for me just now is, you know, I have such a sense of pride in being Bahamian and having success as a Bahamian, right? And you say that, you know, people look to my story and what I'm doing, and I'm glad that I could motivate a lot of people that you can have success in the Bahamas as well as having success as a young person in the Bahamas, right? Because, you know, a lot of people, I went off to school in the States, but I came back, I graduated, I walked, and I was back 2 days after walking because I knew I wanted to be here, right? And I tell people this all the time, and I come into contact with people from all over the world. I say, I'm here for life. Like they'll say, you know, why didn't you want to be in the States? Or I said, I think there's so much opportunity here. I'm here for life. And I genuinely tell people, I think the Bahamas is the best place in the world to live.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
so as we end, please let the audience know how they can find you.
Yeah.
And that's for both businesses. Let them know how they can find you, where you're at, so that they can make contact.
For sure. Thank you. So you can reach me by email, timothy@bettermcrbahamas.com. I'm contactable by phone. I'll give you my personal cell because it's all over the internet. It's 1-242-426-7292. And again, thank you guys. I really enjoyed this. I hope we can do it again soon.
It's a pleasure.
For sure.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
To everyone out there watching, please don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel. And we're going to leave links to Tim's social media, all of them, down below, all of his companies, all of the companies that he's associated with, so you guys can be easy, so he can be easily found. And we want to thank you guys for joining us today.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, man. Thanks.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Awesome.